Let me see if
For an hour.
I don't see the stream going live. Yes, we're live. There we go. Hello everybody. Good to see you. Today we have my special guest. Let me for a moment check out. Yeah, I can let that go. Are we there in D live? I don't see that going live yet, but there we go. That's live too now. All right. Hello everybody. So let me get this chat out. Hey, Julia, good to see you. You are for Mark. And let me put my other chat up because that is better to see. Hey, Geert, good to see you too. John Hoffman, 311 Hero, Cat Spotter, Detox with Tessa, Sarah, good to see you all. So today we have, well, James Gilliland. Who doesn't know James? I think everybody does. If not, uh, I'm gonna have him talk about himself today.
First
So,
subject.
yeah, and yeah. Wait, was there an announcement I had to make? There was conspiracy couch tonight at Alara's, and there was something else tomorrow night at Gino Revan, and the mods will put it in the chat. We're gonna have like a takeover from Whitehead's channel because he's sometimes he's gonna be there, other times not. But yeah, we're gonna do something together. And there we go. I'm sorry, I have a hay fever and my nose is just bleeding. Freaking great. Hi, Fearless. Good to see you. Patricia and Guy Fo. Okay, so and I see woke to the story. Good to see you too. So James, how are you?
Oh, doing great.
Yeah. How's the weather doing over there?
Actually, it's been beautiful t-shirt weather, even no
No,
shirt weather. It's like we've been out, getting a nice tan, working in the gardens, and
really?
yeah, doing a lot of cleaning up the winter problems, taking down dead trees and things like that. But it's been beautiful weather here.
Wow. And this summer it's gonna be nice again, the event.
Yeah, we're in spring right now, but summertime, yeah, we'll probably get, I think we're going to get in the 90s, hundreds, maybe low hundreds, maybe a couple days.
Wow. Well, pretty much everybody I know wants to come and visit.
Yeah.
So that's include me this time, but I've never been in the US even to begin with. So, and you know how situation in Europe, I just hope I can get an airplane over there to begin with. So that would be great.
Yeah.
And hey, G Morty, good to see you, Baby Yoda and Alara. And I see so many people today. Must be you, James. You attract them. So, what I was going to do today is I was going to talk. Well, we're going to talk about a couple of things, but I was going to start with James, how he actually started out, because I didn't know that, and I wonder if other people know. And for those that do, well, you can enjoy it again. But can you talk a bit about that?
Well, my beginnings were like 5 years old when it started, and I had a lot of activity. I was in the hospital dying of bronchial pneumonia, and Mary came to me, and she kept coming to me over and over again. And she was all dressed in blue, and she would talk to me and stroke my head. And what's interesting, we're not Catholic. I want a little disclaimer there. I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person, but the uh, that was the first kind of encounter. And then on about I can't remember if it's the fifth or seventh day. It's kind of fuzzy, but I mean, it's a long time. It was when I was 5 years old. But she gave me something like some white ice cream, but it wasn't cold, and told me to eat it. And then I was never sick after that. I didn't miss a day of school or anything. And I think I know what this is. I think it's crystallized oxygen is what it is, but it just supercharges your immune system. But that was the first encounter, and then I started having beings showing up and in my room, and at one point, we had the Palladians coming in, the benevolent ones. Then we had the other guys trying to sabotage it. And a lot of people don't realize when we do counseling work that comes up with a lot of people, like even age 3 or 4 or 5, the negative ones come in and try to shut you down and try to mess with you and shut you down. and do all
So
kinds.
how do you protect yourself when you're that young?
Hopefully you have enlightened parents. That's about it, you know. But some people have protection that came with the incarnation. You know, they had agreements made and things like that. But you know, I was doing stupid things like putting big screws to the door so they couldn't come in through the back door because we live in the high desert, you know, and there's a lot of activity up there. But you know, like screws and blankets are highly overrated as protection, you know, against these things. Luckily, the benevolent ones were always keeping an eye on me, and you know, I would have the negative experiences, but they would step in and stop it. You know, so I got to see both sides of what was going on, and then and it kept going, and then I had another near death experience at about 25 or so, where I drowned and I went through the tunnel and went to the plane of bliss, that golden light, and was talking to what I called creator, whatever name you want to give it, God, great spirit, you know, it's got all these different names. But it was the most loving, blissful thing you can imagine. There's no words that can describe it. And I had a conversation with it, and I asked, the first thing I asked was, um, you know, how can I stay? And it came back to me and said, I never told one of my children when to come or go. That's free will, you know. And then I asked, how can I earn the right to stay? And it came back and said, you can't earn what is given freely and unconditionally, you know. So I'm going, wait a second. This isn't the God I was told about, you know, this wrathful God with a computer and a lightning bolt waiting for you to screw up, you know, that no man can appease, or woman. So anyway, so I experienced a whole different experience than a lot of the religious teachings and things like that. And and then so that sparked an intense study with yogis and lamas and Native American elders from all different nations to kind of recreate and understand the experience about what happened. And what I found out is every culture has their signposts or their names for this level or that level, but they all lead to the same place. But you know, when you get into the religious side of things, you know, there's a one way attitude. You know, everything else is dark and the devil, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really work that way. You know, it's
But for
there's
you, before the experience, it did, or and did you change your mind after that, or did you never believe that anyway? The religious story that you grew up with.
Yeah, my dad, it's funny, my dad came out of New Mexico and he was involved with a lot of stuff that happened in Roswell and other places. And so my grandfather and grandmother owned the hardware store, and they sold the all the stuff to the Swenson Ranch and things like that. So my grandmother knew the first responders, the sheriffs, and they came to her trying to talk to her about it because it really shook them up really bad, you know, what they saw. And they weren't supposed to talk to anybody, but she was like the patriarch, you know, or the matriarch, let's say, of the town. And so they came to her and she said, it's a big universe. Of course, there's life out there. Why would you not think there's other beings out there different than us, you know? So she kind of talked them through it, you know, and they couldn't even hold a coffee cup. They were shaking so bad. Their hands, they were going like this, holding a cup, you know. And
Well,
and so,
especially in those times. I mean,
oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
exactly. And so anyway, but that's kind of the story. But you know, in studying the different cultures, I realize what it all boils down to is inner sensitivity and where you can discern the nature or the frequency of the beings or the beings you're connecting with, because we have a saying, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent, because it's mixed. And so that's what self-mastery is all about, is learning how to, you know, master your own inner sensitivity, be able to discern from your heart, from your center, you know, whether this is positive or negative or beneficial, and go from there. And that's, I think that's one of the biggest problems on the earth right now, is the lack of spiritual discernment.
Oh yeah, yeah, and well, I just had like last week a conversation with Whitehead. He is also on YouTube. He does prayer stuff, and he is a Christian, and
Mhm.
so I'm spiritual. and the same as you have seen it, although I didn't have to die for it. But
Yeah.
apparently everybody needs to die somehow. Everybody literally in this movement that they all have died at least once, and then they see either Jesus or whatever. And it's so interesting that I believe there's a reason for it, that they, I don't know, that it needs to spark an awakening, right? So I had this interview based on like how can we bridge that gap between those that are religious and those that are spiritual. And we had a great conversation about it. But eventually, it's pretty much what happens when people are, religious, then they tend to hold on to that. And um, it's interesting to see because although I grew up in religion, I was even baptized, but I never kind of in inside I just I didn't it didn't resonate with me. Things didn't add up. And so um when you had that experience, did you like were you like surprised, or did you have like a paradigm shift at that point?
100%. Yeah. I, from that point on, I knew what God was, and I knew it was neither male nor female. It was beyond all division, all polarity. And that was just pure bliss, pure love and joy and bliss. And it didn't even have an ego to judge. It was beyond that. And, we're the ones that keep our books, and our own guilt creates the reaction, the action reaction, or whatever you want to call it, karma. And so the source just says as you wish. It goes as you wish, as you wish. So if you go like all people are evil, then as you wish, you see everything as evil.
You
If
create
everything
it.
is good, it
Yeah.
goes as you wish. But you need to have a balance. And because there is good, there is evil. It's a big difference between positive and negative, and good and evil. They're not the same.
Yeah.
And people go, you have to have evil. And I go, well, you don't necessarily have to have evil. Positive and negative, you do need for creation. You do need a positive and a negative energy, the polarities for creation, but it's different. Good and evil. Evil is just evil, period. And
Yeah,
you
but
don't,
I do think it's there. It needs to be there too, in order to distinguish one from the other. Otherwise, if we do not know what black is, we would never know what white is, so to speak.
yeah.
And so that's kind of how I see it. But you said like positive and negative is not the same as dark and light. I do agree with that actually, because negative experiences can be meant for a positive outcome.
Yeah. Well, like a battery, you need a positive and a negative pole for the battery to work.
Yeah,
And,
yin
and
yang
by
also.
nature, women are more negative charged, and they're more subjective, and they're more subjective. So they have a better pipeline to source, to creator. And so if you really had an advanced civilization, it would be more matriarchal, because the women should be receiving the information, the guidance, the men should be helping to carry that out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
ultimately you want to have balance within each person, both your sides balance. But we have it backwards. We have the intellect and the patriarchal program going on, and it's destroying the planet. It's creating severe problems within the civilization right now, and it really needs to go out. Go out the door.
Well, it's interesting because I grew up with like Indonesian grandparents, and in the household from them, and I don't mean like the today's Muslim kind of Indonesia, but rather they're from the smaller islands and stuff, and that's where it's matriarchal. And so for us, grandmother is the one that is at the head of the family, and it's
Yeah.
always been like that. And I grew up with that. On the other side, I grew up in Holland, where it's the opposite. So it was awesome to actually see both sides, because it allowed me to make my own choice and to see what is right and what is a natural kind of way. And so yeah, it's a pity that obviously programming and all that, because that's where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
you know but I have a question, like,
Right.
because we are the same age approximately, I think. And so you know how Dolores Cannon was speaking about that first wave,
Yeah.
and it's so interesting that I meet so many people from my age that are having either experiences or they are wide awake, and they were already in like from young age. And there's an interesting thing that I learned about that time between approximately 76 and 72 is a generation that doesn't fit with the one generation before that or after that, and
Hmm.
they are called the Bohemians. And it's very interesting that many of those people have a very a mind of their own and are not to be put in boxes. And it's interesting that happens only every so often, that you have this little um, time span where you do not, you fall in between the generations, right? Like the classic saying of it. I do believe those are all the ones that actually wake up and are very well aware of that, the cosmic stuff, so to speak. And do you feel that same, and do you experience that same?
Yeah, there does seem to be waves of energy, that people incarnate. They follow, like the 16th century, all these people incarnated for the new Renaissance to usher it in. And there's other times, and there's other people that come in just to be, they're, what's that name? I can't remember what they call them. They're like non-players or something. There's some kind of new name
That's
for it. They're
Yeah,
not,
that's the Bohemian.
yeah.
We fall right in the middle, but we don't have this. We don't literally make a choice. Or we're neutral. So and open minded. It's all good, you know.
Most can't be hypnotized, which is really interesting. Um,
Really.
yeah, a lot of people, they have a really hard time being hypnotized because they have their own mind and they're on a different frequency, and they came in with safeguards, so they're not subject to social engineering or the critically thinking research impaired groups that are out there, the mass Nazis, all that stuff. They're not part of that. They see through the whole. They already know what's happening, who's behind it, and everything. So they
So
can't be hit.
interesting.
Yeah, and so they, like, you watch TV and they can walk away without any programs or implants or anything else. It just doesn't fade them. They're really centered in their own mind.
Yeah, I had that. I actually did hypnosis therapy and all that, and it was really hard to get me to get me out of it or into it to begin with.
Yeah,
And I had to literally change because I did it at first for therapists, so it was the classical hypnosis.
yeah,
Nothing. They couldn't get me under nothing. But when
yeah.
I did QHHC, it was different because I wanted it, and so you
Well, you're
know,
still in control under that system. You still kind of maintain your self authority.
yeah.
It's a different, that one's just totally giving up your power to suggestion, any kind of suggestion. So it's kind of a different program. Like I can do self hypnosis. I can
Yeah.
program my mind to overcome things and things like that. So I can do that, but it's the regular type of hypnosis just doesn't work, and the social engineering doesn't work either.
Same for
Just
me. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So how did it go on? Because you were like a child, and so you all of a sudden saw how what God was for
yeah,
you, and so and you were still young, right?
yeah. Well, I started studying with lamas and yogis, and even taught yoga for a while, for quite a few years, and I wish I stuck with it because my back's been killing me lately. I need to get back into the old programs, but it's now I if I were to teach, I used to teach bhakti yoga, which is different. It covered spirit, mind, and body, all the different aspects of it. But the the yogis, when I would meet them right away, there'd be this recognition. It was really interesting, and they would always do something to show, that there was some kind of recognition. Like when I met the lamas, when I was studying with them, when I got my lamic name, which is Rijin Norbu, which means jewel of pure awareness. When I got the name, I was really honored by that. I go, wow, this is a tough thing to follow, tough name to follow. And my friend got the name Record Keeper, or his name is Record Keeper. So he was really upset about that he got Record Keeper. And this guy had a real serious, he was, he kept the records, and the records were always in his favor. And he was, he'd say he was a little morally challenged, but as to what's fair and things. But it's kind of interesting that these guys can see things, and they can, and I know too, the llamas have a wicked sense of humor. They
Yes.
teach through that.
So,
And some
so
yogis do too. They teach through the humor, and they'll push your buttons and really get you going and things. And that's part of their teaching.
yeah, I love that actually, because that's what you also see in, for example, the Shaolin Kung Fu, because they have all that, same kind of way of building discipline as well. So so you went to Tibet?
No, I was in Santa Cruz, California, and with the yogis that came there, and I studied with them. And then my yoga teacher, which was female, Claire Blancott, was she would bring them in whenever one would come in. She would bring them into the class, and so I'd do work with, they do initiations and things like that. And so that was how. And then in Portland, uh, was when the lamas were coming to Portland. I had a friend that was a disciple of one of these lamas, Gayatro Rinpoche, and so he was one that gave me my lamic name. And I spent some time with him. But he told me, he said, I could give you your robes right now. He said, we know who you are, and we know who you were. And I remember those lifetimes. But he said that you can't do cave this lifetime. You have to deal with basic interpersonal relationships. And he said, which is the hardest path, and I go, oh my God, because I just wanted to cave. I'm really struggling. I don't want to sound judgmental or superior or anything, but I'm really struggling with people right now, and
Oh
all
my
the,
gosh, that
and the projections, and it's just like, and the more you raise your frequencies, the more you amplify other people. You mirror back to people their stuff, what they love and don't love about themselves, and their wounds and traumas. And then they go into projection mode, and it gets accelerated and amplified. And they call it the wake of a yogi. And so it's like whenever I go to these events and these conferences, all of a sudden, all this, excuse, I don't know if you can say shitstorm happens.
oh, you
And
did.
I go, what are you talking about? I said, none of these things happened, all these projections. And so I'm getting used to it, but I'm really getting tired of it at the same time, because I'd rather be gardening. I don't care about the fame or the notoriety or the money. That's just never been my gig, and I'd much rather just be gardening. And,
Yeah, like you like to be like with you, because I've done that 25 years. Well, obviously because of agoraphobia, but kind of, it was like a divine intervention for me, because I literally, learned to be with myself, not being, and I didn't like it at all. Exactly the same as what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, actually, and many don't, because it's exhausting, and it's not because you are better or this or that. No, it's because I don't know, it feels
it's how, a good example is, okay, during this yoga class, and I brought this up before, I had an awesome teacher. She was brilliant. And she did two things. One, I had a fear of speaking publicly at the time. And so
yeah.
she sprung it on me. She goes, okay, James is going to give a speech about yoga and what it's done for him, to this big group, right? So I'm going, oh God, and I'm getting sick and everything. My ego is going, no, don't, you can't. So I went up there and I go, okay, I'm afraid of making a fool out of myself, so here goes. I just went, and got it out of my system. And I went on and just gave this beautiful speech about yoga and how things get caught in the body and holding the postures and about consciousness. I go, I don't know where it came from. It just flowed. And then she said, wait, you're not done. And she told the people there, she goes, okay, I want you to write down on a piece of paper, and she gave everybody paper, write down everything you love and don't like about James, like this. So they did, they did. It was like roast James time or something. I don't know. She just pushed me through my stuff. And so I'm standing up there and they get through, and then each one of them read it out loud. And then after they were done, she turned around to the class and she said, everything you like and don't like about James is you. And these are your projections and you need to own it, the good and the bad. And I just went, whoa, because I was just getting barbecued up there. I mean, the stuff they were saying, I go, that's not me. I go, it's not. And it released me from that need for acceptance and approval outside myself, and realized that everybody's projecting and
Yeah.
nobody's going to actually see you for who you are. They're going to project. And the
I,
more you,
I
there's,
didn't need a yogi for that. I went to a psychiatric clinic for
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But same
exactly.
thing, it's funny because I recognize that.
Yeah. And so what happened was, it was really interesting. And so this other master teacher I had, I love what he said. He said that this one kid, he goes, I really want to become the Christ. I want to become the Christ. He goes, you do? And he goes, yes. And he goes, they'll hate you. And he goes, what do you mean they'll hate me? And he goes, you're going to mirror back to them everything they love and don't love about themselves, and you're going to amplify it. And
Yeah.
so he goes, you're sure you want this? And that's what we're going through right now. Is everything is being amplified, the frequencies are coming in, we're rising in frequency, everything is coming up for people, and the ones that are going to get through are the ones that own it,
Yeah.
that take personal responsibility and own their attitudes and emotions and what they're feeling, and not
Yeah.
project it on others. Those are the ones that are going to make it.
Yeah, you see so many people at the moment that encounter their ego. I've been there myself as well, again. And, because you have to constantly remind yourself, it's not like, oh, now I learned it, now it's over. No, because in all sorts of ways, you encounter yourself again. You're like, oh, shoot, that's ego, and because sometimes you just, you don't see it that way until you do, right?
Oh
And
yeah, spiritual ego. There's ego, and then there's spiritual ego. And then what I get into lately is that I'm seeing these little posses are gathering. These people are gathering together. And again, just an observation, and I kind of endearingly call them the poser posse. They're posers, they're not authentic.
yeah.
They've taken some mushrooms, they've had an experience, they've taken some heavy, whatever, they've had some experience, and now they're experts in everything. They haven't done the self-mastery training. They haven't learned how to heal unseen negative influence. They don't even know who's coming through. And they all gather together, and they don't realize they're being actually orchestrated on another level by other
Yes.
darker forces. They don't even realize that because they haven't got to that level of discernment yet.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that these people, and it's like an epidemic. They're gathering together, and then they're attacking the people now that are authentic, that are really speaking from the heart.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I'm really having a hard time with some of this stuff, because you go there and you put your whole heart and soul into things, and you help out the whole conference, and you clear the conference and the people and the staff and all this stuff, and then you come back and they're sticking knives in your back and everything,
Well,
and
but
you're
that's
going,
yeah, but that's where you see it, right? Because I never understood. Well, obviously, I had really bad experience with drugs in the past, but I never had those stuff like mushrooms, and you can actually buy it here, just normal, right? And what's the other, ayahuasca, all that stuff, and they go like, oh, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna do my ayahuasca, and then well, no, there are no shortcuts. Took me 25 years to actually see the darkest points of myself, and there's no drugs in the world that will get over that. You need to go through it. And I also do think it's dangerous, rather, because you're not ready for it maybe when you do that. And
yeah,
I think it has to come naturally, because if not, it's just not the moment for you. That's kind of how I always saw it, and I would never even risk it, because I don't know. You never know what you can get. You know. attacked with when you do that stuff. And then, oh yeah, they saw all these colors and they saw this and that, and oh, now I'm spiritual. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, they're going into, a lot of times they're going into the psychic, realms and the mental planes and things where everything goes, especially the lower astral level.
Yeah.
Everything goes in there, and so there's a big difference. And if you want to have a more spiritual experience, that's a psychic experience. That's an astral experience. If you want to you got to go through the psychic barrier into Christ consciousness, or the beyond that into the more fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensions. And that's when you have the awesome stuff. But a lot of people think they had the spiritual experience, but they had the psychic experience generated by a drug or plant medicine or whatever. And like you're saying too, I've seen a lot of people get really messed up. They get
Oh yeah.
hitchhikers connect to them in those experiences, and that's the voice that they're channeling, and they don't even realize that's where their guidance is coming from, because they didn't learn the self-mastery tools on how to discern and heal unseen negative influences. So that's like kind of epidemic right now. and
Oh yeah.
and there's people, I hear people, they go, we want to have the Woodstock, they want to turn this place into Woodstock of ufology and everything else. And I go, does that mean we're all going to sit around and do drugs and do each
Well,
other?
that's what exactly what you're saying. That's the difference, right? You either are spiritual, but you cannot be like act spiritual, but because that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
And and besides, I never talk about that, whatever, but I've always been like that. I'm just having fun and do my things, and I don't need to be with like a band on and a flower sticking out and having incense all day around me, because
Yeah.
I just know, that within it is where it is. And I guess these people kind of wind up in um the wannabe spiritual hippie plane when they take that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There are guides in the higher astral level. There are teachers and guides and things, but they're still stuck. And
Yeah.
because they have some religious or cultural thing they haven't transcended yet. And so that they can give you some good information, but they're still on the wheel. They're still
I
stuck.
think also they can give you that information, but if you do not know how to navigate yourself and your own being, and you don't even know your own dark spots yet, then it's kind of useless, because how you going to work with it? Because eventually you're going to encounter yourself anyway. And then
Yeah.
what? Nothing left of that whole spirituality, because now you need to go through it.
Well, it's like you've got kind of, and not to go religious, but I mean, you've got kind of the jinn, demonic type things. You've got reptilians, the Gray Alliance. Those guys all have those abilities, and they can come in and start tweaking and messing with you. And if you do have unhealed wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experience, that's their doorway. That's how they come in and create division and everything else. And so it's the same thing. We're seeing this acted out, between Republicans and Democrats, and
Exactly.
it's all being, the divisions are all being acted out. And when you clear those, you transcend all cultural, all religious boundaries. You're in unity consciousness, and that's where we want to go. But the drugs aren't going to take you there. I mean, they'll you can have some experiences and some other things, but on those levels, but you can also get into big trouble. And I've seen that happen so many times, where people have these big reptilians attached to them, or negative grays or things like that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And in the UFO community right now, people don't realize how infiltrated it is by the satanic Luciferian, um, Gray Alliance and reptilian stuff. It is so thick in there, and they're controlling the narrative. They're
Yeah.
totally controlling the narrative. And we have these people that are in the UFO community that are saying, yeah, I'm hanging out with Rockefellers and the Clintons and the Podestas and all these people who are known, Satanists. They've actually made it very clear that's who they are,
Yeah.
and pedophiles and things of that nature. And it's for name recognition. And I go, why would you name these people as your connections to show how powerful you are, when we know their nature? But people don't get it. They go by name recognition only. and they don't look at they haven't been seasoned in the field long enough. And so they're following these guys. And I said, at what point did you not cut off contact when they mentioned these other people they're working with? And it's in the movie industry. Now these guys are all moving into the movie industry, everything. And it's gotten so convoluted.
Well, I always think when you get a platform from mainstream media, something is up because
Yeah.
you can have your moment, but then they start cutting stuff out, everything that is uh, too dangerous for them. But when somebody gets a proper like podium, like a platform to actually talk about all that, then I'm starting thinking, wait, that's weird, because
Yeah.
why would the rest be shadow banned and removed, and those people not? That to me is kind of that's I mean that's a no brainer for me. You know,
Yeah. Ancient Aliens came out to the ranch here and they did a whole special on the ranch and they edited me out of it completely. I don't exist
of
anymore.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I go, oh, weren't those the guys that were trying to install Lucifer as the one true God, or that we've all misunderstood good old Lucy? And so I mean and then you've got all the other stuff going on in Hollywood. You can imagine, how,
But
people wait for a Hollywood actor to tell them how to think and give them moral guidance,
well,
it's just
you know
like,
what? Because this is worldwide. I had like at the time in Twitter still, I had this a Dutch journalist just stalking me, like every platform I was on, stalking me to do an interview about, our favorite Annan. And I refused because I know what they're gonna do. You
yeah,
know, they're just gonna portray you as the crazy person, and that's what it is. So I immediately said, nope, 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 stay away. And she kept contacting me like, what, am I impressed because you're some well-known journalist? I don't give a shit,
yeah,
because the whole reason you are there is why we're here in problems in the first place, because you guys are the problem.
yeah,
And
exactly. And the thing about, we give our power away to these people, and because everybody wants to be famous, everybody wants to be rich, everybody, we're all looking for acceptance and approval outside of ourselves. And until we master that, and we're really just fully aligned with creator or whatever you want to call it, then you're not going to go there. You're going to feel that you go, oh, this is not good. And I knew these guys are going to do this before they even did it. And I even called them out on it. I said, I know what you're going to do. You're going to cut me out of this entire episode. And because you don't like what I'm saying, because I don't pull any punches. I talk about the different levels of consciousness and the dark side and how they operate and things like that. So I give a balanced picture. And so now these guys are saying, oh, it's all good, there's nothing negative out there, and these leaders are great people, we all got to just open wide and let anything come into us and use our bodies. And you're going, seriously? I mean, that's the most irresponsible thing I've ever heard, and it's actually damaging. And you can lose yourself in that, and people do. They get possessed basically, or heavily influenced, and
well,
they
yeah,
don't even.
and it's and when you're genuine, then it's also hard to deal with it because you're literally trying to run through the mud, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's hard, but at the same time, I tend to try and ignore it, whatever people do say, but it is hard because I know how that is, right? Also, I'm not obviously as known as you are, but and I'm not doing those topics, but it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, we're all being attacked.
Yeah,
And especially in the UFO community, that's always been like that. But interestingly enough, when I was a child, my dad was obsessed with the area 51, and he had all books about UFOs and all that. And so I actually kind of grew up with that already, that it wasn't strange to believe that stuff,
yeah,
which is a good thing. But then I never saw one, never seen an alien, but I do know they are there. But that's because I'm claircognizant and I just feel it. I don't even need to see it.
yeah.
And And I do believe that people do see it because they need to, and they're not, because as long as the eyes don't see, it's too surreal. And for me, that somehow works different. It's
Yeah, well, they told me they were showing themselves to everybody else around me and not showing themselves to me. And it was really, I mean, I saw them when I was a kid and everything, they were showing themselves. But later on, when I was starting to go, they wanted me to go public and they said, we really want you to develop your telepathy and your inner sensitivity because we want to come to you that way. And if you start looking for us all the time, you're an objective mind. You're
oh,
not
that makes sense.
yeah, you're out of sync, with how we're working on the spiritual planes and the fifth, sixth, seventh, up to the 13th dimension. And that so we want you to really develop yourself spiritually and rise to the occasion so we can have a constant communication. We don't have to come down and buzz you with our ship and rattle your house or
Bam,
anything.
bam.
Yeah, yeah. And that creates problems because when you start having physical ships appear over your house, first of all, most of them that are physical, a lot of them, those are ours anyway. We have our own back engineered ships, and then the more spiritual ones are non-physical.
Yeah.
They're ships, but there are spiritual ones that have physical ships. They can drop into our dimension as well. But they made it very clear. They said we don't want you to get into the objective mind and the need for proof or our thing. That's the ego.
That's
That
so interesting. You say that. I never thought of it that way because, indeed, and also I already knew, and also I would probably have been busy then trying to even reach it more while in the meantime not working on myself, right? Because that's
yeah,
what we do. And so I developed that clear cognizant like really fast now, and this intuition is really strong and stuff like that. And everything that I see is like, oh, I've been there. I don't know how I know that, but it's just is. And so I still haven't seen anything that everybody else sees, but I just feel I don't need to because
yeah. But do you go out and look for them though? Do you sit at night and
no.
watch the stars? Aha.
No, I'm in a city and the light pollution is incredible here. And I do believe if they really want to, they will let me know.
Yeah,
And
if you go outside, they'll power up and show you their ships and things like that because
but
they'll
I don't really find it even interesting to see ship,
yeah.
because I rather like, oh, okay. And I rather feel that like, okay, come and visit me then.
Yeah, that's where I am too. It's like right now there's three of them in my head talking to me.
Really? I'm so jealous.
And so it's kind of normal. It's the mind, when you expand in awareness in your mind, they're there. They're all around us
Yeah.
and they're just waiting for us to rise to the occasion. But it's so true. You got to do your shadow work. You got to clear out your old wounds and traumas and because when you stand in the presence of a high frequency being, you're going to project all that. You're going to go into fear and judgment and all kinds of stuff. And or you're going to worship them or you're going to fear them. They don't want either. They
Yeah.
want to meet us on even
Look,
ground,
well,
so
that's it. That's another thing. Worship. Oh gosh, I was just thinking about that yesterday. Worship. I mean, I never felt that even here with people. Like, how people look up to somebody that is either famous or whatever. I never had that ever because somehow I always felt like, well, it's just a human being. But same for that, right? Because why the worship? We are all having our intelligence. We all have to learn. It's like a child also has to learn, but a child doesn't have to worship me either because I'm an adult, right? So I never understood that whole concept, but then again, I do feel
there's
maybe.
it's part of the social engineering program to keep you looking outside yourself
Yeah,
and everything external, keep everything external. You want to be like this person, you want to wear the same clothes as you want to have the same car, and it's everything's external.
yeah,
And the whole thing because they're afraid of you going within and really finding out who you are. So the whole program is external, keep you in the first three chakras, which are survival, sex, and power and keep you out of the heart and out of the higher chakras, and people don't realize that, and you just got to you got to take the time and just walk away, get in nature, do your clearing work, do your meditation work, and find out who you are, because we each have our own unique purpose for being here.
Oh yeah,
And we need to be authentic with that. And if that means telling politically incorrect jokes or whatever, it doesn't matter. Be
right.
authentic, you know.
And
Don't
that for me has been since a child has always been something my mom used to say, like, you need to learn to lie a bit because people are not understanding your openness, no filter. And because I literally say everything I think, because as a child I always thought, well, for me it would be so natural to be telepathic because you get to be yourself. And so thinking of that, I always thought I need to always speak what I think, which obviously hasn't made me very popular in the past, but then slowly I learned in the social aspect. But I still don't want to wear that mask. It just doesn't feel okay. And so that got me in a lot of trouble, but I still don't care because at the end of the day, I need to look myself in the mirror. I need to feel good with myself, with what I do. If people do not like then the things that I may say that are not appropriate in their eyes because it's not socially accepted, then well, so be it. Because I just I just can't. I just never
as a
could.
child, we knew it all. As a child, we had that inner sensitivity and that ability to discern. And I know I got in trouble a few times because my dad had he golfed a lot. He was a scratch golfer, really good golfer. And we had like Arnold Palmer over our house and things like that when we were kids. And then Lois Lane, one of the original Lois Lanes from Superman, was there one time, and he brought me up there and he goes, "Do you know who this is?" And I go, "No," and he goes, "This is Lois Lane." You're a little kid, and you go, "No, that's not her. She's old."
Yes.
And, and she was old, and as a little kid, you're just blunt, and so I got in trouble all the time because,
I
uh,
still do it. I
yeah,
still do it like that because and this is why I love kids, because when they say something, for me, instantly, it's like, oh, that's normal,
yeah,
because that's what it is. And so many times I see people and they say, oh, you can't say that. And I'm like, why not? I don't understand. And I still, and then people say, oh, but it's because you have autism. No, not. I don't have a label. I refuse a label. It's just that I cannot work with stuff that I mean that I don't think or I don't feel that is true. And so and obviously that, yeah, still gets me in trouble, but I don't care because I'm fine with myself as well, and that's it. Because it's authenticity is so important. And now finally, with a whole new wave of people and being awake and all that, I finally encounter my like-minded people, and I love that because, oh man, that's such a relief to finally, you know not feel like the weirdo, and that people actually are like, oh yeah, I think that too. And I'm like, you know
your social group kind of gets really small the more you become enlightened, and that's just one of the things that happen. I know as a kid, my dad used to introduce me to people, so I'd size them up, and he said, "What do you think about this person?" And
oh,
sometimes I go, "They're really nice, they're really nice people," and other times that I would say, "No, bad," and he was going to do business with them, and I would say, "No, he's not a good person."
oh, because he knew how,
Yeah.
like, in
And the
tune.
guy, the guys would come in and they go, "Oh, your kids, and I love your kids," and everything. It was so fake, and we saw right through it as kids. And we just told him, "We said, I don't like him. He's a user. He's not real. His mind is saying one thing, his tongue is saying something else, and his heart is saying something different. And he
Well,
hasn't."
isn't that normal for every kid? Because I had that too, same.
Well, that's what I'm saying. When you have a near death experience, you go back to that, what you knew as a kid, that sense of awe, that beauty, that knowingness, that feeling, you go back to that, because a lot of the social programming just drops. All that
Yeah.
social engineering you've gone through school and everything else falls away, especially when you've had a, near death experience or things like that. And then all of a sudden you're seeing things differently with the Buddha mind, the fresh mind. And people are saying what doesn't matter what they're saying, you're feeling their heart, you're
Yes.
feeling what their real intentions are.
Well,
And
that's so interesting because you said, yeah, because of my near death experience, but I actually had a social death experience for 25 years being alone. But the effect is the same. It's so interesting that you say that because I never thought of it that way. And it always also kept me from social pollution, so to speak.
yeah,
And
exactly.
and so I still don't have that. And I don't do the fakery, the mask, and people, oh, how are you, and this and that, and I'm like, I don't even know you. And I also tell them because it's not logic to me, when it just like I look straight through it, and I believe everybody looks straight through it, but people don't say it or something. I don't understand why.
I had one teacher, I love what he did once, and he was sitting and this woman's going, I love you so much. And he turns around and he goes, I don't feel it.
Yeah,
It's just words, just words.
yeah,
I don't feel the energy, I don't feel, you know,
exactly.
and it was kind of funny, and it really made her like back up and reassess, like,
Yeah,
wow,
but but people,
this is
that was so fun. That's so funny
this
though.
is need. You're putting need on me. You're putting all these other things. I'm not feeling that high love that you're professing. And so very, very, it's sad because most people are feeding off each other. They're trying to fill some void they
Yeah,
didn't get as a kid or through a parent or whatever, or past life, or could be anything. And that's why it's so important to go to know yourself.
yeah,
To You're always going to have those things. They're like compulsive behavior pattern. You're always going to have these little grooves. But when you know them, you know when you're doing it, and you go,
yeah,
oh, and you catch yourself and you stop projecting, or you get out of the neediness and you pull away. Like, one thing I was really guilty of is that I have such a beautiful connection with Mary, is whenever things didn't go right in the relationship, I would just go into Mary and I'd get this incredible download, this beautiful Christ of love feeding. And I'm good. I'd walk
gosh.
out.
So
I'm
she
good.
had to go. She had to go in competition with Mary.
Yeah. So I just go, yeah, I'm good now. And they go, no, you should be upset. You should be upset with me. And I go, no, I'm good. I'm really good. I love you. Everything's good. Don't. And
Amazing.
it's kind of fun, but we can all do that. We can all hook into higher dimensional aspects of
Yeah,
ourselves, because we're multidimensional beings existing on a vibrational continuum,
yeah,
all the way back to the source. And so as
yeah,
we expand in awareness, we can connect with all these different beings, and eventually when you get to the highest levels, you realize there are no levels. There is no division, there is no separation. It's just
well,
interaction.
it's interesting because like since I started my channel, I've been social again. I have to say I have quite a lot of trouble staying myself.
Yeah.
And because it's I have to think about so many things, and it's sometimes exhausting because I was so not used to that for 25 years. It was like, yeah, that one person, or every so often that I saw them, but that was about it. And now I speak to like hundreds of people a week, and I'm still staying myself. But once you start getting relationships, even if it's virtual, right, you get these friendships and all that, and then I'm like, oh, do I need to think of this, or do I need to think of that before I say it? And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like that, because that yeah, I'm but
Yeah.
in some way we have to. But I
Well,
try
now
to.
with all the censorship going on too, it's like, we just got some big hits on us,
Oh yeah.
and so I'm in Facebook jail, and I'm always in Facebook
Oh,
jail.
you're
But
still on Facebook? Who's still on Facebook?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll be off. I don't even care, but anyway, I just call it out like it is, and I have been for forever.
Yeah.
It's that thing about just being authentic and speaking your truth from the heart, and not and be flexible.
Yeah.
If somebody has a higher wisdom to share or a higher truth, okay, I'm all ears. Tell me, where's, what else? If you ever know something more than I do, let me know. I'm just in search of the most expanded truth there is. But it's kind of interesting that I'm seeing now in this politically correct world we're in, and you can't do anything. And there's one thing I wanted, really, if you think about it, I have like 10 strikes against me. I'm white, I'm actually Cherokee, Scotch Irish, and so I'm kind of mixed. But I'm white, and I'm awake, and somewhat awake and enlightened, and I'm a male. So you got a white,
Gosh,
powerful male. Bam,
yeah.
bam, bam. Three strikes against you right now. And
That's the new thing, right? At the moment, I don't even participate in all that crap, but
now,
yeah,
if I was, and, oh, hetero too. If I'm heterosexual, white male,
apparently
bam.
in America that's really bad right
I
now,
was,
right?
I would not get half the heat if I was gay or if I was whatever. And I'm not saying it's in judgment. It's just like it's amazing. If I was of a different color, a different culture, or different sexual preference, I could get away with murder right now. But now they're just like loaded for bear for anything. And I almost like triggering that. I like just playing that role on purpose just to trigger people's stuff so they can get
Well,
past it.
if you wait a couple of decades, you can actually ask a repatriation, or what would you call that? No, like benefits, because you've been uh, bashed for
Yeah.
racism.
No, I do have my card. I have all that stuff because my grandmother, and we've proven our heritage and everything. But I don't even care about that. I'm more in the moment. I'm creating from every moment, and I don't need any outside or external things to
Approval,
no
yeah,
dependencies, nothing. And that's where I'm coming from. But this thing that's going on right now, it's like the it's with everything, with the police, with everything. There's this all this social injustice, which is extremely one-sided, and it's I mean, there are unjust things that need to be addressed. Sometimes they're just.
yeah.
And we can't, it doesn't matter what color you are, what culture you are, or anything. Sometimes things are just, and it's
Cool.
like the
I'm a
BLM people,
I'm a redhead where I'm the most overlooked of all, because they say we have no soul and we're a dying race, and so oh, we have to be less white. I mean, seriously. I
yeah.
even have, I
How's
mean,
that?
people constantly, when I have a stream with them and I'm like, I don't look so white. Well, get some warmer lights. You have no clue how warm my lights are. And
Yeah.
I even give light myself so white. So, I mean, I can't help it. And I cannot adapt to be less white because, it doesn't come any whiter than this, but it will never be any different. I can bake in the sun for 5 months and I wouldn't even get a tan. So, but I don't care, because,
Get a t-shirt that says soul lives matter, because
yeah.
see, I have full memory of most of my lives, and I've been everything. I've been a slave, I've
Hey,
been
hold that thought. I need
everything.
a t-shirt. I need a t-shirt with that.
And then so I have full memory of all that. I've been Native American, and all that stuff, elders. And so when you have full memory of that, all this division stuff just falls away.
Yeah.
And you see the big picture. And yeah, there were injustices in the past, but one time we're doing the injustice, the next lifetime we're getting the injustice done to us. It's all over. It's like all these kids now are incarnating these really rich families, these landowners right now, and they're incarnating from the Native American culture. And so now they're turning the lands back into sanctuaries, and so it's
That's
always
karma. That's karma at its best.
changing, it's always shifting. and
Yeah.
and uh, and so we have to transcend all cultural, all religious boundaries and get into unity consciousness, and then we're going to get through all this stuff. So people hate me for saying that, one group,
Yeah. Well,
because
I know
because I
it's
won't take sides. I'm not going to take sides. I'd be siding against one of my lifetimes, against myself. because I
Well,
am all
but it's a very big deal in the US, especially. But I've got literally all colors and all religions in my family. I grew up with it all, and so for me, I couldn't care less whatever people say about any, thing, and or even the victimhood of it, right? Because
yeah.
if we have to go back, like, oh yeah, because at the time they were slaves. Well, before black slaves, there was actually the Irish slaves. Well, nobody talks about that. And before that, we had other stuff, right? So
These were slaves, and yeah, and so it's like the whites. There's so much white slavery going on in the ancient times. It was like that was the big bonus. Grab yourself a white woman,
well,
as a
here's the kicker: now we're all slaves.
yeah, 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 exactly. That's why I say, why don't we unify and realize we're all slaves to evil, and let's all
Exactly.
get together and take care of this evil and all the extreme uneven dispersal of wealth, and then we can all come together and have utopia and peace on earth. But
Yeah,
that's
but well, also because like victimhood is a currency these days, right? With many
yeah,
people. And well, go ahead, but I'm not participating. I do not consent. Simple as that. And I do not participate. So you're not going to get anything from me. I'm not going to feel pity for you. Nothing. We're all on the same boat. So, figure it out.
character to me. It's character. Character matters. Period.
Yeah.
If you're
Right.
a good person and you're here in service and you're helping out others and helping part of the planetary liberation, I don't care if you're purple, green, or whatever color you are, we're all in this together, and we all need to kind of unify to get rid of the real slaver enslavers, which are these Illuminati guys. And
Well, but imagine if they're already making a problem about a white hetero male, then imagine if we become a galactic family, they're gonna have a big problem.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Who knows the customs of other cultures, especially, if you're green or purple or whatever. There's a lot of blue races out there too. Maybe you should get this Blue Lives Matters, but they say you're on the side of the police, know,
I
which
think
are
actually the BLM stands for Blue Lives Matter.
yeah, yeah. Well, the leaders of BLM, they just bought, some mansions in an all-white neighborhood. So that should tell you their true motives.
Yeah,
I'm just are they inviting all their people to come there,
yeah.
I was wondering how long are we going on this show? I've got to go to a
Uh,
dinner.
oh,
I don't
well,
know if we're an hour or more.
you can go to your dinner if you like.
No, I don't want to cut you off. I can go for a little bit longer, but I do have well,
No,
it's part of the staff. There's a birthday party for
oh, that's so nice. Well, I never have a time when it's good. It's good, and otherwise, I'm like, but obviously, I didn't even ask. Do
yeah,
you have anything else planned that you have to go? So I know.
yeah, I'll have to leave here in about 10 or 15 minutes, but
Oh, that's cool.
enjoy this
I
dinner
can
thing.
still, I can still question your head off in 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding. So, oh, there was a question I had actually. As somebody else, actually, let me do the chat. Does anybody in the chat has a question? Because you've got 10 minutes to do it, because otherwise he's gone. I'll just ask you back next time.
Yeah. It's Myra's birthday, so we have to go celebrate. She's
Oh, that's
awesome.
fun.
Kind of runs everything. The women actually run everything here. He said. People think that I'm this patriarchal dictator. No, the women run everything here.
Well, we know for a fact that it's not true. Actually, everybody in there, well, many in there has been at your ranch, and except for me, but that's going to be the place where I'm going to meet everybody, actually, which
Yeah.
would be so awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm just manifesting it for July to come over.
Well,
And
we're changed the date to the 16th.
yeah, you
So
said,
we
oh,
were going
yeah.
to do the 4th, and so we're doing it on the 16th now because I think there's going to be a lot of things happening on the 4th.
Well, if they don't let me fly from Europe, maybe you can have me beam up by one of those guys over there.
There you go. That works.
Yeah, just have them pass by, and I'll take a ride to Eceti.
We're going
So
to do the conference we're going to do is virtual because the same reason people just don't want to deal with the nonsense of the flying, or they can't. Like Peter's in Australia, they're still locked down there too, and
same,
yeah,
same here. And yeah, that sucks. So yeah, this is what it is. So when are you going to be opening for the season at Eceti?
yeah. May 6th we open up.
All right.
We'll
And
open.
then you have only one of those conferences in a year,
And we
right?
have a lot of conferences here. We have a lot of mini workshops. We do a lot of yoga workshops.
That's nice.
Just a little bit of everything, self-mastery workshops, ambassador training workshops, and we have special people come pop in and they'll do a weekend workshop. So I'll have everything up on the website here pretty soon. We're gonna have a calendar up and everything. We haven't launched everything because we've been dealing with all the little bugs in the website and things like that.
But you only have that like that one time in the summer where there is this
The big
special
conference. Yeah, the big.
conference. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have a lot of mini workshops and things with, breath work and all kinds of things.
Awesome. I can come breathing. Yeah.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right. I'm gonna let you go have your dinner. Let me thank the chat. I didn't see any questions, but then again, I also uh didn't pay too much attention to my chat, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I neglected you people. Um, and where can people find you? Well, actually, my mods already put everything in the chat, but still, for
Great.
those that check in later.
Yeah, just go to eceti.org and everything's there, or you can go to Eceti Stargate on YouTube. We're still up so far. We're getting hit hard on that one.
Yeah.
And we have other venues that we're getting ready to go out because we have Telegram and we have 2 or 3 other venues we're getting set up right now. and
Well,
and our we're going to have Eceti Stargate TV pretty soon, so that we've
oh,
got that all set up. So we'll be able to just do our own thing without any censorship, and yeah,
oh,
it's,
that's
it's
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I have everything in the description as well for those that come in later. They can check everything. I put all the did I actually put your website in there? If not, I will do it anyway
great.
later. And so people can find you there. And as long as you're still on YouTube, what if you're getting kicked off? Where do people find you then?
Yeah, you can find us on Telegram, or
Oh
we
yeah.
have some other accounts right now we're in the process of opening up,
Okay.
and we should have those open the next couple of days, and then we'll put it out on the newsletter, or there's also a newsletter you can sign up for free on the at eceti.org.
Oh,
But
I need to do that.
it's so funny. Everybody asks us, they said you're a cult. I said try joining. They go,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I go, there's nothing to join. There's a free newsletter. That's it.
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's come up with.
You're a cult of a newsletter.
Yeah, yeah. We empower the individual to think clearly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, have a great evening, everybody. I'm going to talk to you all soon on Monday, actually. I'm going to have on Monday David, the Truth Warrior, that was yesterday actually on Alara's channel. So hope to see you all on Monday. And also tomorrow evening is on Gino Revant's channel. I'm going to be there as well with every white hat warrior over there and the conspiracy couch tonight. Don't forget. I'll see
Great.
you all soon.
All
Peace
right.
out.
Thanks for having me on the show.